back in 1986, my husband and I and our 5-year-old daughter moved into this house. I brought my grandmother by to see the house because I was excited that we had, finally found a house that we liked, and pulled up to the garage to park the car. My grandmother said, "No, I'm not going in that house." I'm like, "Why?" She said, "There are Hanks in that house. In other words, there are ghosts in that house. I'm not going in there." I just thought, well, come on. If you don't want to come in the house, just say so. Don't say there's ghosts in the house. She refused to go in there. I hadn't experienced anything that, remotely close to ghosts in that house. I didn't understand where she was coming from. I didn't even feel anything strange in the house. And so we moved in, we got settled in, and then my daughter began to have nightmares. And, she'd wake up in the middle of the night, we'd go in and check on her, and she'd go back to sleep. And, we assume she's having a bad dream, she's having nightmares. This went on for some years. We lived there for 6 years, and during that time, we ended up having twins. And so one day, I had put one of my twins in a walker, and I put the other twin in a swing. It was a type of swing where you crank it up and then it sort of swings, builds up momentum, and it swings. And I left them exactly as I just explained to you, and I went into the kitchen, and I was probably in the kitchen 10 minutes at the most. Something told me, go check on the twins. So I stopped what I was doing, went back into the living room, and my son was still in the walker. He was exactly where he was when I left him. My daughter had been taken out of the swing. She was laying underneath the swing, laying on her back, and her legs were through the slots where the legs go, but she was upside down. And I said, "How did you get like that?" I didn't read a whole lot into it. I thought about it, like, that's impossible. My husband came home from work, and I told him about it. Both kind of scratched our heads. We didn't really know what to make of it. So shortly thereafter, my husband and I separated. He moved to Connecticut, and me and the kids stayed in the house. And I really noticed that my daughter still kept having these nightmares, and I'd go in and check on her, and I didn't really understand why she was having the nightmares. But eventually it was time to move. Twins were, I think, almost 3 years old, and my daughter was 11. And so we had found another place, and I had a U-Haul van, all of our furniture in it, and we left. And as we were pulling out of the driveway, my daughter said, "Mom, I gotta tell you something." I was like, "What's wrong?" She proceeded to tell me everything that she had been experiencing in that house. And it was the most bizarre things, the most bizarre, unbelievable things that I still believed her. And she'd always, whenever she would talk about it, she would always start off by saying, "I know this sounds crazy. I know you don't believe me, but this is something that happened in that house." And one of the things was there was an older lady who would visit her and she told her name was Ursula. So by the time my daughter got a little older, we would go to the library. We would look up the house, look up things that may have happened to the house, because it seemed like my daughter could never get any peace. She never got any closure. And so we go to the library, and sure enough, someone named Ursula did live in the house. And another thing that my daughter would see was she would see lights with swirls of color, and those lights would hover and move throughout the house. And she would see soldiers marching through the living room, and she would hear them. And she would see a dinosaur that was so big it covered an entire doorway. And whenever the dinosaur was there, the other things never came. And the dinosaur would give her peace and comfort. It never seemed to be enough for my daughter to believe that I believed her. It always gnawed at her. Maybe she was trying to convince herself whether this had truly happened to her. I don't know. But I believed her. So when she became an adult, we had been driving down the street and noticed the house was for sale. So we came up with a plan. We're going to go back into that house. And we're going to take pictures, and we're going to do EVP, and we're going to see what's going on. So we made an appointment with a realtor, and both my daughters came along, and he let us tour the house. It was very eerie going back into that house, and my daughter was somewhat hesitant to go back in there, but she felt like she had to do it. So we were kind of looking around the house, taking pictures, doing EVP recordings. And we were in there probably a good 15, 20 minutes, and then we thanked the realtor and we left. And on the way, almost full circle, as we backed out of the driveway, and on the way out of there, we played back the recordings, and we heard, and I don't have that recording, I wish I did, we heard, all three of us, it said, "They're in the kitchen." And someone else said, "In the kitchen?" I said, "In the kitchen." And it was crystal clear. And for us, it gave us closure. Yes, something is strange in that house. Something is going on in that house. Something was going on in that house. But it gave us this closure, especially my daughter, it gave her this closure of being believed. We still didn't know what these things were. We still couldn't explain it. We knew that was real. And a couple years back, I drove past the house again. And I always would look over there whenever I was in that neighborhood. It was just a habit. I had to go look and see the house. And it wasn't there. They tore it down. And I had a sense of happiness. At least no one else has to experience what my kid experienced in that house. And because of her experiences and because of the experience that I had with my twins, that physical movement of my kids being moved out of the swing, it has given me a mission to figure out what these spirits are, what these ghosts are. What is the deal? I don't want another kid to live in a house with so-called ghosts, and they're so afraid they can't tell anyone, and no one believes them. Everyone thinks they're making it up. Oh, it's a pretend friend, or they're just making it up. No, they're not making it up. It's very real. And as I said, it's been my life's mission to figure out what this is. No doubt, it's real. Thank you for listening to my story. And if you'd like to hear other stories like this that are very real, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe. Love, light, and peace to you. Thank you.